For those of you who use applications like Adobe Photoshop, Adobe Illustrator, or any application that has something called layers in them, you'll be quite familiar with using layers inside of After Effects. Now, of course, because we are in a different type of application, which is for video and special effects, we have some extra options in our layers that we don't have access to in other applications. So let's talk about how layers work. Well, they're down here, and whenever you bring in footage or you create files in After Effects, for example, if I go to the layer menu and I choose a new solid, for example, and I place this object in my layer stack, you see that it's on top of the logo, which is why we can't see it anymore. The way the layers work is whatever is the highest up in this stack is the closest to our eyes. So imagine that we're looking at this stack standing above it and we're looking down. The first thing we'd see is this gray solid, which is this. And underneath that solid is this footage, which is my logo. And if I go ahead and click on that footage, I can move it over and you can see that it's under there. So the stacking order is very important. Likewise, you can always rearrange things as well. So if I click on this layer and I drag it up, you see that we get black line? When you let go of that black line is where that layer is going to live once you let go. So I go ahead and let go here, and now the layer is obscuring the solid under here. So now this is on top. So once you get the hang of that, it'd be a lot easier to figure out what's going wrong just in case you can't find elements in your scene. So what else can layers do? Well, layers can also have properties that can be animated. And even if you don't want to animate it, you can still apply properties to things. For example, transparency, rotation, and so on. So I'm going to go down here and click. As you can see, when I click on something, it's selected in my viewport. Now, if I hit certain keys on my keyboard, it will twirl open the property that I want to deal with. So I'm going to go ahead and hit T on my keyboard. It's a shortcut for transparency or opacity, as you see here. So I can go ahead and click on this little slider and I can fade it in or out. Now once again, these can be animated and I will show you guys how to do that in the full course. So that was a little teaser, so make sure you're there for that. I can go ahead and hit T again and that will go ahead and close that. If I hit R, I get rotation. If I hit P, I get position. And if I hit S, I get scale. So it's really cool. Now what else can I do? Well, some of these properties have a little link here. I'm going to go ahead and disable that link, a little chain link. And now I can scale in whatever way I want to without being constrained. So when I want the numbers to be equal, I click on the link, and then what I do to one will affect the other. So it's kind of cool. And as you can see, because I changed these guys after I clicked on the link, and then I clicked on it again, it will respect that, and no matter what I do, my new measurements will stay there. So I go ahead and click on that link, and I'll make that 100 again. I'll make this one 100, and I'll put the link back on. I can always hit S again to close that property. Now I'm going to move this up by clicking on this divider. And I'll show you something else. I can see a lot more properties by using this little twirly here. That's what it's called, this little triangle. And I can see that I have my transform, and I can click on that, and I can see other things in here. So I have anchor points, I have position, scale, rotation, and opacity. The same thing we were doing when we were pressing those keyboard shortcuts. So I can really get to all of them at one time if I want to. But a lot of the pros, they know what they want to do. They hit that letter on the keyboard, make their changes, and hit it again, and it goes away. Let me go ahead and twirl that back up. We also have some other things that live in our layers. Well, as a matter of fact, we have a lot of things that live there. Well, we can see the name of our file. We can click on a little eyeball to hide or show that layer. We can lock that layer so we can't really move it. Okay, so I'm moving the one behind it, but I can't click on the one in front. I have it locked. I'll unlock it now and click on it, and I can move it. That's really, really handy when you have a lot of elements and you like the position and you really don't want to mess it up by mistake. So get used to locking them. I can also do things like affect how I'm viewing those things, and I can do that up here as well. So let me go ahead and move this down. And you notice that this doesn't look exactly high res because I'm looking at it at half resolution. I can go to full, and now it looks much crisper. Now what I suggest you guys do is when you're working on your projects, while you're moving things around, while you're rotating things, while you're tweaking things and trying to figure out the placement, try to work on a lower resolution. And that'll make life a lot easier on your computer. When you want to see what it's going to look like, go ahead and put it back on full. I typically keep it on half or even lower depending on how much stuff I have going on. So as you can see, there's a lot to do with layers. We can even parent layers to other layers. So let me go ahead and move this over a little bit. And you see this guy right here? This is a whip. And what we can do with this whip is we can latch on to something else. So I can grab this whip. It's actually called a pick whip. So I can go ahead and click on this layer here, as you can see. And now it says right here that it's a parent. Okay, so let me see if I can just open this up a little bit more. I guess I can't, so that's fine. But it says right here, dark gray solid. So now when I click on this, the dark gray solid is the parent. So that means when I click on the solid, the child is this layer here, and it will follow it. If I want to break that relationship, click on here again and say none. And now they can move independently of one another. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that little tour of layers. But as you can see, a lot more icons to cover. And all these things here, and the timeline, and the current time indicator. There's just a tremendous amount that you could do with layers in After Effects. Like I said before, that you really can't do in any other application like Photoshop or Illustrator. So we'll learn more about layers in the full course.